Cool.
Hello from Five Reasons. Welcome back to our Marlins report. Today with David Fernandez and Christian Chase, we have Marlins news. We planned a different episode for today, but guess what? The Marlins broke the news this morning with something very special for us as a country, for us as a sports organization, and for us in here in Five Reasons. The first woman as a general manager is going to be working in the Miami Marlins. And that's something that we have to talk about, of course, here in Marlins Report. How are you guys? How are you, David? How are you, Christian? Welcome back.
Good, man. Happy to be here, obviously, and excited to talk about this. I mean, really history-making, groundbreaking move that the Marlins made here today.
Yeah, same. Very exciting move for the Marlins. I woke up to the news, or I think I was up already when I saw it, but absolutely amazing news for the Marlins. Got a really talented person to head the ship, and also just for baseball in general. It was a long time coming.
Yeah.
That the Marlins are the first to take that step.
Yeah, for sure. So Kim Ng is going to be the general manager. There were a lot of names thrown out there. We were talking about David last time we talked here. And it's very interesting because we kind of nailed it, even though we didn't know it was going to be a woman, but we knew it was going to be coming from the Yankees somehow. We knew it was going to be somebody with a lot of experience in the game. And guess what? Fine. And let's talk a little bit about her, because her story here in the United States, I think it reflects a little bit of what the United States are about, right? She's a daughter of immigrants. Learned the game here, well, not here, but in New York, in Brooklyn. And then she was so passionate about it that she decided to go and pursue a career there. So let's talk a little bit about her story and what she brings to the Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Kim Ng is probably not a name that very many people knew, but she's been in the game for a really long time. In doing my research today, I posted a new article today up on the Five Reasons Sports website talking about her hire. And in doing research for that piece, learning about her, I was just floored by this resume. I mean, she's been in the game for 30 years. She started as an intern with the Chicago White Sox way back in 1990, and then made her way all the way up into MLB. And she spent the last 9 years as vice president of baseball ops for MLB, like in total, like, the league. She spent some time with the Yankees, 98 to 2001. She was an assistant general manager in New York. And if you think about that time with the Yankees, I mean, that's really when they took off as a franchise. Again, obviously, right, because they've been taking off so many times throughout history. But they took off at that point. Derek Jeter was a major part of those clubs, right? Don Mattingly had just left, but if I'm not mistaken, Don Mattingly was still around as a coach, as a development guy with the team at that point. And then she made her way to Los Angeles, and she was with the Dodgers from 2002 to 2011. I mean, all told, with her in the front office, the teams that she helped put together, because she did absolutely have a role in player acquisition and trades and signings and things like that. She was a part of 8 postseason appearances, 6 league championship series, and there were 3 World Series championships that she was a part of. So she's coming to the Marlins with a wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I have to completely agree. I mean, the resume that she brings to the table, I would argue 15 years ago, if she was a man, would have been in the line for a general manager position. And I think for the Marlins to be a part of this shift in baseball is phenomenal. I mean, we look past through the years, not just in baseball, but through all sports. Sports are based off tradition, whether it be not going along with new analytics or stuff along those lines. Baseball is rooted in that. And it's the teams that break away and take those chances that see the success. And, you can argue however you want, but Kim Ng is not a chance. I mean, 3 World Series titles speak for themselves. She knows what she's doing. She's a genius when it comes to baseball. I could not be prouder of this team, this organization, for making this step, making the correct choice, even though every single past experience for baseball would have led them otherwise down a different path. But we have a changing culture here in Miami, and luckily we have Derek Jeter, who probably had some type of relationship with her and knew her abilities, and that gave her the opportunity to do this, and will give us an opportunity to further compete for a title in the upcoming years.
Yeah, for sure. And we have to talk about the fact of her, her being a woman, because it's history. But other than that, we should treat her just as any of the other guys, because like David said, she's been part of this game for so long, right? And she deserves it. You were talking about her resume there, and it's just amazing how much she's done so far in her career. So now she has a very interesting let's see, it's gonna be challenging.
She's got her hands full. She's got her hands full.
Yes, so it's gonna be a challenge. I read that she was almost she was very close to be a part of the Dodgers organization at some point. That would have been a totally different project that what she's gonna face here with the team that is just being built, that is still in the process of becoming a team that can compete to be in the playoffs constantly, right? And we'll see what happens. We're seeing what's going on in New York with the Mets. They're kind of rebuilding from the top instead of from the bottom, right? They have new owners, and they're in the middle of the process, and we know they're gonna spend some money.
Yeah, they have deep pockets over there now.
Yeah, now in the free agency, and that maybe Trevor Bauer, maybe Real Muto, maybe those guys end up in the same division with the Mets or with the Braves or with any of these teams that might be interested in these guys. So what do you think about Kim? You think she's going to be aggressive now? Is it going to be a little, let me taste the waters a little bit, or she's going to go for it? How do you feel like she's going to go about her business now, being the GM in the Marlins?
Listen, I have no idea how she's going to approach this. I mean, the Marlins have traditionally been,
Just like she's going to be talking on Monday. So after Monday, after she talks, we can get a little sense of the way she's going to approach it.
But I mean, traditionally the Marlins have been kind of cash strapped, right? I mean, there were moments where they spent a lot of money, right? So it'll be interesting to see, how much money she has at her disposal.
Yeah.
I mean, she does have experience with player development. She does have experience, obviously, with trades and things like that. So there are many ways to supplement this roster. And listen, there are some definite needs on this roster, and we could talk about that, today or next week. But in her statement today, she said this: "We are building for the long term in South Florida, developing a forward-thinking, collaborative, creative baseball operation made up of incredibly talented and a dedicated staff who have, over the last few years, laid a great foundation for success. This challenge is one I don't take lightly. When I got into this business, it seemed unlikely a woman would lead a major league team, but I am dogged in the pursuit of my goals. My goal is now to bring a championship baseball team to Miami. I am both humbled and eager to continue building the winning culture our fans expect and deserve." I mean, just listening to her statement, again, makes me incredibly excited. She seems to be reinforcing some of those elements that we've heard from Derek Jeter. Obviously, some of the stuff that we heard from Mike Hill before they didn't re-sign him. So she seems to be ready to not only hit the ground running here, but to build on the foundation, as she mentions, that's already in place. The Marlins have a very deep farm system. They have talented young players, but they need to supplement that stuff with some veterans who know how to produce at the major league level. I mean, but her addition, obviously it's historic, right? But this isn't actually anything new for the Marlins. I mean, when Derek Jeter became CEO, he was the first Black CEO of a baseball team in history, right? And then Derek Jeter hired a woman named Caroline O'Connor to become, vice president of the club, and she becomes one of the most powerful women in sports, right? So the Marlins have often thought outside the box, right? And leading into this announcement, Craig Mish on Twitter had mentioned that the name was going to be outside of the box. And we had talked about, Jim Hendry and Tim Naring and Billy Epler and some of these names that we've heard before that have had these positions before. And the Marlins pulled somebody that nobody really expected. So maybe she's ready to go in a direction that nobody really expects, right? Maybe she's willing to pony up the money for one of these high-level free agents, or maybe she's willing to make a deal for Lindor or something like that, So it'll be interesting to see, what she does moving forward. But she definitely has a challenge in front of her, because even though this club made the playoffs for the first time in 17 years, there are some very specific needs that need to be addressed.
Yeah. Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think they're based off the statement she made. It's very exciting for Marlins fans. I think there's a few questions that I have that I'm sure will be answered, when she talks to all of us. But when she talks about this forward-thinking, progressive attack that she's going to take, is it concerned with what will her viewpoint be on analytics? Will she take the route of going, for the players that are analytically better, or will we go for those high-name free agents that cost a lot of money? I think the idea that I'm getting from her is that we're going to take a very similar route that this Tampa Bay Rays team took this past year. No big names, I would say. I mean, arguably their biggest star was a kid no one expected to be a star. Randy Arozarena was a nobody, and I think I saw it when we played them, and he hit 2 homers off Trevor Rogers. But past that, no one really expected that to the slightest, right? And Randy Arozarena showed that through his statistics, through the farm system, and they capitalized on that. And I'm excited to see if Kim will be able to pinpoint those talents and utilize them. I also think a big question will be how she accepts that growing trend on the field. The trend to shift more. The Marlins are in the middle of the pack when it comes to shifting. I'm actually writing my senior thesis here at the University of Florida on shifting and statistically how much that benefits a team. And I'm excited to see how she'll utilize that in Miami. And then when it comes to pitching, obviously we have some holes, I think, especially in the bullpen. And that was definitely clear this past year, past our certain guys. And even names like Brandon Kinsler. Brandon Kinsler had a great year, I believe a 2.2 ERA. But you look at the pitcher he has been, and you look at stats like FIP, which is more of a true average of where a pitcher is, and his FIP shows that next year he's due for a regression, and it's going to be a big one. All the stats say that if he is to come back in a Miami uniform, he will have an ERA up in the 4s and 5s. And I'm hoping that Kim will be able to notice that and make the applicable signings in that area and implement stuff on the field that can really help this team get better and better. And that's the vibe that I got off of that statement there. But we won't know for sure until Monday.
Yeah. And it's a challenge, and it's very interesting because she's coming to a team that she can actually build, right? She's not going to come into a team that it's already built and you just have to bring 1 or 2 guys and that's it. Here you have half of the roster that you can move in or move out, and you can kind of shape a team in a total different direction right now in this moment of the rebuilding process that the Marlins are going through. So that's why I think it's going to be a very interesting challenge for her and for the entire organization. Of course, we know it's not going to be just her making all these decisions. It's always a team effort in that regard. But the GM is the GM, right? It's the last person who finally makes the decision, maybe with the president right there in that regard. So that's why I think it's a very interesting challenge for her, for baseball in general, to see how they're going to handle a woman being a GM, right? We're kind of getting used to in the outside world, outside sports, getting more and more women in these type of situations. But this is something that goes beyond even baseball, because it's the first general manager in any big league here in the United States. So it goes even beyond what's going on in MLB right now, and that's the importance of what's going on with the naming of Kim NG here in the Marlins. So now to finish this video, we're planning on doing a special episode going through all the free agents and see if they can fit or not the Marlins, and maybe some trades that the Marlins can do, and we'll save that for another episode of Marlins Report. But today I wanted to give a little glance right over the list of free agents and maybe some options for the Marlins, and see if Kim will take that risk, right? Because it's I mean, as usual, there are a lot of good names, and of course, like we said last time, I would love to have Realmuto, Lindor in shortstop, and Springer in center field to start on opening day, right? But we know it may not happen
Probably
that
not.
way with the Marlins. Yes. So, how do you guys feel about these free agents? You think the Marlins are gonna be pursuing any one of them? Which one of them you think the Marlins should be more interested in?
So I think the Marlins have some clear needs, right? They have, as Christian mentioned, they have some needs at the back end of the bullpen, right? They need probably a couple high leverage relievers, right? Because they declined the option on Kinsler, as he mentioned. They also, they lost Brad Boxberger to free agency. I mean, they could always bring both of those guys back, but they let them go for a reason. The only guy that they have back there right now that they used in that role last year was Yimi Garcia, right? So, he'll be back there, but there are some interesting relief pitchers on the market that they could pursue. There's obviously the former Marlin Brad Hand, who was pitching with the Indians. He would be nice at the back end of that bullpen. A few others like Liam Hendricks and Trevor Rosenthal. Those could both be some major upgrades. So they definitely need to bring in probably two high-end, high leverage relievers in my mind. Beyond that, there's a clear need at catcher. They didn't seem sold on Jorge Alfaro, right? Because if they did, he would have been playing more towards the end of the year. So maybe they look to, who knows? Maybe they can bring in Realmuto, although that's kind of a stretch, right? He's looking to get paid. But maybe a guy like James McCann fits a little bit better. And beyond that, there's a few other ones that could come in. Mike Zunino, just to throw out another name out there. But and then listen, the Marlins need another bat. They need power in that lineup. Now does that power end up as a corner outfielder? Do they get access to a DH next year? That would help some things. We talked about Ozuna the other day. Bringing back Marcell Ozuna is probably a good idea, I would imagine. He's still relatively young, especially if they have, access to the DH, right? And then they probably need a middle infielder too, as insurance in case all these young guys flop, right? If Isan is a flop, if Jazz needs more time at AAA, they probably need to bring in somebody to man the middle infield. Now, the good thing is Rojas is a solid shortstop. Gold Glove finalist this year, but he could play short. He could also move over to second base, so there's just some wiggle room there in terms of who they sign. And there's some interesting names in the middle infield market, right? Marcus Semien, Didi Gregorius. You go a little bit further than that. Former Marlin Kike Hernandez could help, So there's guys like that. And then obviously I would like them to bring in another starting pitcher. I know that starting pitchers are strength, right? From like a development standpoint, from the farm system. But I think they need one of those inning eaters, right? Somebody that is going to get you 5, 6, 7 innings. 5 and 6 innings consistently, occasionally 7 innings. Somebody that's done it before, to kind of fill out the rotation. Maybe somebody like Jake Odorizzi, maybe somebody like, James Paxton would be an interesting name there. Left-handed pitcher. We don't have a left-handed starter. He's coming off, some injury issues. So he might be somebody that they could get for cheap, stuff like that. So they have some holes to fill. Christian, what do you think, man?
I'm not gonna lie to you. You picked off I have like a list of guys, and you just picked them right off. But I agree when it comes to a lot of them. I think I think we do need a veteran pitching presence, and some of the other ones that I have on my list of potential targets, a little cheaper too, would be Jake Odorizzi was probably my top and most realistic pick. And then, you have Mike Minor in there. I think he's a nice veteran presence, left-handed pitcher that could suffice the rotation. And then even Drew Smiley could be nice. And then when it comes to the back end of the bullpen, the three names that I personally picked out were Mark Melancon, always a good force in the bullpen, and just a competitive guy who you like to see down there. Even though he had a relatively poor last year for him, I thought Blake Treinen would be a good piece as well that we could add to the bullpen. And then I have one more on my list when it comes to relief pitchers. Oh, Kirby Yates. I think Kirby Yates is also a good option for the bullpen. I think all three of those guys are consistent, put up good stats, and compared, even though Melancon and Yates are on the older end of things, they haven't shown any signs of letting up. Their true pitching statistics look the same. And I'm sold on those guys if we can get them. When it comes to the middle of the infield, I do think Miguel Rojas is going to stay. But I would expect throughout the season, like you said, if, our second baseman kind of flop, which is definitely a possibility, we could see Miggy Rowe moving to second. And some possible options that I like are, Tommy La Stella is a good option at shortstop. Andrelton Simmons is going into free agency as well. Just two really good defensive, and also they walk a lot. They get on base, which is something I really, really like out of a shortstop. And then the dream for me, I think I would like to see Nelson Cruz in a Miami uniform. He's 40, but he hits homers. We need the power. We need that force in the middle of the lineup, because as much as I love them, Brian Anderson, even though he can hit homers, it's not really that, that potential threat is always there, if that makes sense. Whereas Nelson Cruz, you have his high strikeout rate, but, you throw him at fourth in the lineup and he's going to give you 30 homers. And that is something this Marlins team hasn't had since Giancarlo. And Giancarlo almost single-handedly took the 2016 team to the playoffs. So those are my top picks. Again, I don't see all of them working out. I would be happy if one of those names landed in my team.
Yeah, and we'll go over all those names and their stats in that special episode. We can go by positions and see which players are available, which players will be a dream, like Christian say, which players can be realistic options, and what can the Marlins do in order to bring some players that might not be free agents, but might be involved in different trades throughout the free agency stage. So right now, this is all we have for today's Marlins report. We're going to be joining you guys probably on Monday, right after our new GM talks, right after Kim NG does her Zoom interviews and media availability. We will be here with you guys in another Marlins report to talk a little bit about her way of looking at baseball, right? Because I haven't heard from her, I have to be honest. So I want to listen to what she has to say and the way she responds to this question. I remember this week, the Mets owners, they spent 2 hours just answering questions to the journalists about different things around baseball. So we'll see how much Kim can give away about their plans for this free agency right now with the Marlins. So thank you guys for joining us. Remember to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, a like, leave your comments here. Which players you think are better for the Marlins? Like our friend Money Baby says, James is a better fit in catcher position.
Yeah,
We'll
listen, he absolutely, I think he is the better fit. I mean, he's a great pitch framer, all that stuff, but we'll get into all that next week.
We'll get into that next week. I'm excited.
We'll do a special episode on free agency and what the Marlins plans will be for that. So remember to turn on the notifications so you guys get the alert every time we go live. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a beautiful weekend, all of you here in South Florida. Have a good one. Bye-bye.